Right, perfect. We're going to go ahead and get started here. So, hello and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today for today's session, Building a Recognition Culture, Driving Manager Engagement. So today's conversation is really all about how we can drive manager engagement to make recognition not just a program, but a part of your culture for every level. So I'm going to go ahead and give a quick intro of everybody who's on the call here. So as you know, my name is Samantha, and I'm a customer success manager here with Recognize. And then we have Brittany Espinoza, who's head of customer success with Recognize here as well. And I'm very happy to introduce Emma Potter and Catherine Powers, who are on the call. Emma is a training and communications manager with Blackberry Farm. She's going to be our guest speaker today. And then Catherine Powers is training and development specialist with Blackberry Farms as well. So what we're really diving into today, we'll go ahead and take a look at our goals. So we're going to learn how to make recognition a consistent, impactful habit across all levels of management. We're going to discover key features within Recognize that empower and motivate managers to actively participate. We're going to explore actionable strategies to gain manager buy-in and inspire leadership-led recognition efforts. And then we're going to go ahead and hear from Emma, who's going to be sharing Blackberry Farm's success story. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Oh, and then we will have time for Q&A at the end of the webinar. So we definitely want to make sure if you do have a question, if you could please specify who the question's for. That way we go ahead, we answer those questions for you. And we do want to take a quick poll. So you're going to see a little pop-up. We just kind of want to know how you would rate your manager participation in your current program.
So you should see that pop up on your screen now. So tell us, do you feel like your managers are very engaged? They're the champions of your program. Maybe they're somewhat engaged. You've got a handful of managers that seem to be consistent, but it's the same managers, consistently every month. Maybe you feel like your managers are rarely engaged. It's kind of hit or miss with your managers, or maybe you are really struggling and you feel like your managers just are not bought in and not engaged at all, which is okay because that's why we're here today. Let me give it just a couple more seconds. It looks like most people have answered. Okay, so now we can take a look at the results. And it looks like most people are saying that their managers are somewhat engaged, which is very typical and a great place to be because it means that that you're off to a great start, but that there is room for improvement. So hopefully we'll get you some good takeaways for today.
Great. All right. So first, we're going to get into strategies to secure that manager buy-in. So we want to make sure we're showcasing Recognize. So the first step is securing that manager buy-in is definitely showcasing the value of the recognition program. And you could do that by using data and metrics to illustrate how recognition is driving employee engagement, productivity, retention. So for example, you can kind of highlight changes in turnover or engagement survey results before and after implementation of the program. And you want to share those success stories, of course, within the organization, and maybe share any quotes or case studies from other teams or other departments that are really benefiting from the program. And you want to make sure that you're clearly defining goals for your program. Are you trying to foster collaboration? Are you trying to increase morale, maybe improve performance? Make sure leaders kind of understand what success looks like so they know what they need to do. This is also going to build a strong case for managers to see recognition just not as a feel-good activity, but a strategic tool aligned with business goals as well. And then next, you want to make sure that you are all in alignment. Once leaders see the value, you want to make sure you align recognition with measurable business outcomes. So managers are more likely to participate if they understand that recognition supports their own goals, like improving team performance or reducing employee turnover. And then make sure you're establishing clear expectations around manager participation. For instance, how often should they be recognizing their team members? What platforms should they be using? And then introduce KPIs and metrics for manager engagement in recognition. So you might want to track how often they send recognition or whether they're using meaningful messages. And maybe you also want to see if those messages are tied with your company values. So you're really iterating those. So that way it gives managers, it allows them to have a roadmap and reinforces that idea that recognition is not optional. It's actually part of effective leadership and their position. And then next, transparency. So even the really best programs, they have the opportunity to fail if managers don't feel confident using them. So we want to make sure that's why it's very important to be transparent and support them as well. So ensuring that your recognition tools are easy to use and accessible, the process should feel natural to them, not like you're adding an extra task. And then, of course, make sure you're offering training sessions so they're comfortable using the platform. It shows them how to use the system, and it also shows them why recognition matters and how to do it well. And then maybe you want to provide training resources like templates, tips, or examples of meaningful recognition so they feel prepared. Or you definitely want to try to make the recognized platform very visible, and make recognition itself very visible, because that way it will help build momentum and model behaviors for others. So you might want to consider doing public shout outs or maybe a digital or physical wall of fame. And then lastly, you want to make sure to not forget to celebrate your managers. Don't forget to recognize the recognizers. If you want a culture of recognition, managers also need to feel recognized as well. You want to celebrate those managers who are consistently engaged with the program, highlight them in newsletters, leadership meetings, the announcements or award ceremonies. And then you can also consider using gamification or leaderboards to track and reward top participants. This not only motivates others to follow suit, but kind of reinforces that idea that recognition is part of the company's identity. And then, celebrating those leaders really sends a clear message that we value those who value others. So really important to also make your managers feel valued. All righty. And then I'm going to turn it over to Brittany here.
Thanks, Sam. And Sam touched on this a little bit, but I want to talk about the importance of turning recognition into a manager-led initiative. One of the most common things that I hear is that managers and employees, they look at a recognition program as an HR tool, and we really want to shift that narrative and help managers understand that this is a manager tool. This is a tool for managers. It's not for HR. It's not for an HR initiative. It is specifically a manager tool that they have at their fingertips to help motivate their employees and drive results. So one of the biggest things that you can do, I always say there's three things that you want to make sure that you're doing with your managers. And the first thing is get their buy-in. So get them to trust and see that the program is going to be beneficial to them as a leader. Train them and make sure that they have the tools that they need to be successful using the recognition program. And then highlight and accountability. So make sure that there is visibility into how they're performing and hold them accountable to what you expect from them. So really the first part of this is make it part of onboarding. when you have new managers either coming from outside the company or moving up within the company, make sure that you're actually taking the time, even if, especially if they're coming up from within the company. I think a lot of times we think, oh, they've used the platform, they're good with it. But if you're promoting somebody from within to a management position, it's really important to take the time to make sure that they understand what new tools they have as a manager and what their role now is as a manager in terms of recognizing their direct reports as well as across the company. And the other thing too is kind of the ongoing piece is putting it into performance reviews. When higher leaders are giving performance reviews to managers, this is something that should be included. How often are you recognizing your direct reports? How meaningful are those recognitions that you're sending to your direct reports? And what's happening because of that? What are the positive things or potentially negative things that you're seeing in terms of KPIs and results as an impact of your recognition practices? And then also making sure that your managers have some best practices in terms of when they should be recognizing, how they can remind themselves to recognize, and just some of those like daily habits. So a great idea is encouraging managers to set time aside on their calendars every week, finding a time that they know that is usually, sometimes it's at the beginning of the week, maybe sometimes it's at the end of the week when they're kind of wrapping up their week, but really schedule that time to recognize, because as we know, especially as, our managers who might be like on the front line, they're not always able to send that recognition immediately when it happens. And then they get busy and it kind of leaves their mind and they forget to do it. So scheduling that time to make it a priority every week and kind of reflect on the week and see what has happened and send those recognitions. That's a best practice. So just making sure that you have a list of best practices for your managers, again, so that they have the tools to succeed in leading this recognition program. Another great idea is to assign recognition champions among leaders. And one of the things that Sam and I have both talked about is manager buy-in. So we want them to know that this is a program for them and that it is a manager-led program. And one of the best ways to do that is to make them feel like they have a hand in it, that they have a voice in the recognition program. So assigning recognition champions in different departments and making them leaders gives them the opportunity to share what kind of badges they want to see, what kind of initiatives they want to see, what are some of the celebrations and things that they think are important. They're the direct voice of everybody below them. So it's really great to get their feedback and get their input on what they think the recognition program should entail. And then when you start implementing some of those ideas that you're getting from these recognition champions, that's when they really start to feel the buy-in and they feel like the program is theirs and the program is led by them. And you're just going to get a lot more buy-in from your managers when you're doing that. And then Sam touched on this as well, highlighting recognition, activity, and progress. And we'll show you a little bit later a couple of tools and things that you can do in the application to help with this. But it's really important to create that visibility into who are your top performers and, even holding accountable those who maybe aren't as invested in the program. And one of my biggest tips that I give to companies, and maybe I've said this to some of you who are here, talk to your managers who are your top performers. A lot of times, if they're hearing it from HR or from the top, they're going to look at it as, this is just another task that the leaders want us to do. They're not, again, really feeling that buy-in. But if you can talk to your top performing managers, your managers who really are the ones that are consistently recognizing and figuring out what are your best practices? What are the things that you do to make sure that you're remembering to recognize? And then what are you seeing in your team as a result of that? So hearing it from their peers, hearing from their peers, here's what I do to remember to recognize, and here's the benefit I'm getting. Here's what I'm seeing from my team as a result of this consistent recognition. The other leaders are going to be much more likely to take that into consideration. And again, create that buy-in if they're hearing it from peers. And then the next thing is keep the message alive. This isn't a set it and forget it type of initiative. This is something where you need to kind of consistently be putting it out there. So that can be in newsletters, in company announcements, in meetings, anything that you already have going on in your company. Make it a priority to loop in recognition in the recognition program in any place that you can. The more visible it is, the more top of mind it is for your managers and for everybody else. And then I think I pretty much already touched on this last one, but again, spotlighting managers who consistently recognize others. So again, not only, getting their feedback, but celebrating those people as well. Again, in newsletters or on the announcements page, making sure that we are, as leaders, really thanking and highlighting those managers who are consistently recognizing, because again, that will then encourage those managers who maybe aren't to kind of live up to that expectation if they're seeing another manager who's getting praise for those positive behaviors. Let's see. I'm going to do one more poll. Last one, I promise. So this one is going to be, what do you think are the biggest barriers to manager engagement and recognition? Let me kick it off real quick. So that one you should see pop up. So again, what do you think are the biggest barriers to manager engagement in recognition? So are you feeling or hearing from your managers that they don't have time, or that they're forgetting, that they're not sure what to say or how to recognize or what to recognize? Maybe that they don't see the value in the program. Possibly lack of visibility into tools. Maybe it's hard for them to access, and we can talk about that if that's a challenge. And then the last one is not having clear expectations or accountability. I always like to let it get to the 1 minute mark. So let me give it a couple more seconds. I think we do have most people who have answered so far. Okay, let's see here. Let me share these results. Perfect. So it looks like definitely a mix, but I would say it looks like the two biggest ones are lack of time, which is a super common one that we hear, and then no clear expectations or accountability. So again, this is kind of that like last piece of it too. So it's not surprising that that's where a lot of people are. And I am going to, in the next section here, I'm going to give you guys some tools on things that you can use within Recognize to kind of help with that. Get rid of that. Okay, so we're going to talk about boosting engagement with recognized features. I'm going to cruise through these real quick, and then I'm going to actually switch into the application and just go over a couple things that we consider best practices within the application. So again, we talked about training. We encourage training, whether that's internal or through us, and we offer manager training guides. And we also have live training webinars once a month for managers. Thank you, Sam. Sam's sharing a link in the chat that will give you access to the manager training guides that we have. We do actually have these training guides available in a customizable Canva link as well. So feel free to reach out to support. And it'll probably be Sam or me that responds, and we can get you the Canva link for those, where you can go in and basically just have it as a template and customize it, theme it, make it yours. And then the training webinars, again, they're once a month. Those are in that link as well. The registration for those are in the link, and those are geared towards managers. So we encourage managers to join that live training session. And we talk about not only why recognition is important for a manager, so we help kind of get that buy-in, but then we also go through the manager portal and kind of give them best practices for how they can use the tools that they have in their manager portal. Which is a great segue into my next point, which is the manager portal. I'm going to cruise through it just a little bit live here in just a second, but again, managers, assuming that we have the direct report relationships in Recognize, which we hope that you all do, anybody who has a direct report assigned to them in Recognize will automatically have a manager portal. So they have some tools at their fingertips to be able to track how their team is doing and kind of see like who they need to send a recognition to. Notifications and scheduled recognitions. I will show you guys a couple of notification best practices in the application here in a second. Custom badges. So again, going back to my last slide where I talked about giving managers a voice in the program, create some leader specific recognition badges, and also get their feedback on what kind of badges they want to see, because we may, as leaders be missing something that they, in the front lines are seeing or wanting. So getting their feedback on what badges they want for themselves to be able to recognize their team will, again, just help create that buy-in. We have some cool tips on how to use tasks to make sure that managers are sending recognitions and also reward the managers for their recognition efforts. We'll talk a little bit about nominations and how we can use that to empower managers as well. And then lastly, reports for admins to identify the gaps in the manager participation. So again, I'm just going to swap over here, and I just want to do a little bit of a live demo on some of the things that you may already know about and may have seen in the platform, and then maybe some that you haven't. So let's see here. So the first thing that I want to look at is the manager portal. So actually, if you don't know if you have managers assigned in the recognition platform, let me show you where you can quickly find out that first. So I actually went to the company admin portal, and then if I go to the user and then manage tab, a really quick way to find out would just be to pull up the manager tab here, and you're looking at this column here, and you just want to make sure that everybody who has a direct manager, that it's assigned to them. Now, if you take a look at this and find that you don't have managers assigned, that's a really important piece of this. And so you can always reach out to us and we can let you know what the best way, depending on like your provisioning method and how your company gets data to recognize, we can help you figure out how to get those in there. But that's obviously the first step. Once you have managers assigned, again, anybody who has a direct report will see this manager portal, and they'll be able to see reporting. So things like how many recognitions have been sent amongst their team, interaction with the stream page. They can come in here and find out which of their direct reports are being recognized the most or the least with some of these filters. They can use a time frame. And then they can also see some other engagement metrics here as well. This is a really great page here where they can just get a snapshot of their direct reports, and they can see not only what recognitions their direct reports have been earning, but also the last time they recognized their direct reports. This is a test account, so this isn't my real account, just to let you guys know. I would never not recognize my direct reports. But this is a great tool, again, for managers to come in and say, oh, I haven't recognized these folks in a while. Best practice is that they're recognizing their direct reports at least once a month. So that's a great expectation to set, and right in their manager portal, they can check on that expectation. And then, of course, they have some other things here as well. One important thing to note is that they can get a preview of upcoming birthdays or anniversaries if that's something that your organization has enabled and recognized. So, for example, as a manager, I can come in here and say, what do I have going on in May? Oh, it looks like I've got Frank who has a birthday coming up, or maybe somebody's got a service anniversary coming up. So this tool can help managers kind of pre-plan, even though those recognitions are going out automatically through Recognize. This helps them kind of pre-plan if they want to do anything special for significant milestones. And then I want to take a look at, actually, let's roll into tasks really quick because I told you I'd tell you about that. One of the best practices that we like to suggest, and I probably have it in here as an example, is creating a task for managers to send recognition. So you can create a task that says, send 10 recognitions in the month or send 20 recognitions for the quarter. And then once they hit that milestone, they can go into Recognize and complete the task and earn points for themselves. So again, it's recognizing the recognizers, like Sam said, incentivizing them to engage. So that's a great idea that we've heard a lot. Nominations, this is a great spot to allow your managers to kind of give that elevated recognition. So aside from that day-to-day, this is a great tool for them to be recognizing employee of the month, or just giving them a tool, and it can be manager led, where they can kind of celebrate their teams in a more significant way. And then I'm definitely being mindful of time here, but I want to just pop into some of the settings here and make sure that everybody is aware of the manager notification settings that we have available, and that we definitely recommend using. So managers can get a email notification or a text message notification, depending on what works best for them, when a direct report is recognized. So if one of my direct reports is recognized, I can get an email that alerts me to that recognition, tells me exactly what the recognition is, and has a link for me to directly comment on that recognition. And that's really important because, again, that takes the responsibility off of the manager to be consistently going into the platform and scrolling through, a mountain of recognitions to find what's been happening with their specific team. They can get notified as soon as it happens. They can get the same notification when one of their direct reports has an anniversary or a birthday. And then one of probably the biggest things that I recommend and arguably probably the most underutilized is this direct report recognition reminder notifications. And what this is every week, managers, if these are enabled, every week managers are notified on Thursday mornings, and they are reminded to recognize a direct report. And the system is smart enough to know which of their direct reports has been recognized the least recent. So it will actually specifically name one of their direct reports that hasn't recently been recognized. So again, if you don't have these enabled, I would suggest enabling them. One thing to note here is that if you do turn these on, this is actually just a setting for new users. So it actually doesn't retroactively change this setting for existing managers. So if you aren't sure if these are going out, or if you're just now turning them on, you can always send an email to support, just support@recognizeapp.com. We'll show that email again at the end. And we can have our engineering team do a sweep to make sure that this setting is on for all of your managers. Okay, I think that wraps up pretty much everything I wanted to show there. And I am going to now pass it over to our wonderful guest speakers from Blackberry Farm, Emma. And I believe that Catherine will be in the chat answering questions. So if you guys have any questions for them, please feel free to pop those in. And I'm also going to stop sharing so that I can allow Emma to share her slides.
Thank you, Brittany. Those were great tips and tricks for everybody. Okay, can you all see the slide that says Blackberry Farm on it? Wonderful. So if you don't know Blackberry Farm, we are a luxury resort located in the hills of East Tennessee. We are a small to medium business, I would say, more on the medium side. We have about 1,200 employees, about 150 managers. So we are happy that of that 150 managers, we have about 95, 96% engagement in Recognize. We really love Recognize. It's something that works great for us in the hospitality industry. So hopefully some of the stuff that I share will be helpful to you guys as well. Okay, so I wasn't sure what the audience would be for this webinar, but I will say our success with Recognize started when we first started using Recognize, right? So back in the day before we joined Recognize and brought it on as an app that we used, we had physical rewards and recognitions that we filled out like a little business card and would hand to team members that went above and beyond. So when we made the transition, it wasn't just coming from nothing, right? We were actually taking an old process and improving it and making it digital. So with that in mind, we did face some change resistance, I will say. And so our first step in creating a successful transition was doing what Brittany's already mentioned, and that's creating the awareness of the change and the desire to change. I find that those are two steps that should be thought of when initiating any change, especially a big company-wide one like this one was. So building awareness means why. So why are we making this change? For us, it was we wanted better tracking. We wanted it to be digital, therefore easier to keep up with and easier for the team members to cash out on. And then also building desire means telling the managers like what's in it for you as a manager. So for us, it was a huge time saver, right? Because they weren't having to write out cards by hand. They were also more easily able to recognize team members that go above and beyond that they don't work with physically each and every day. It could be more of those people that they work with across the properties or on a one-off situation. Now, the second step in our thoughtful transition was collecting the existing rewards cards. So if you do already have a reward system in place, I recommend you collect those rewards and transition them into Recognize instead of encouraging your team members to basically use or lose their rewards. That is something that really helped us get that buy-in on the front end and take away that fear of what am I going to do with all my cards? I've already built up so many rewards and now I'm not going to be able to use them. And then lastly, in our transition is any of our recognized rewards distributors were required to complete a training before they were ever granted access in the system. So this means they were walked through an e-learning course that showed them where everything was in the system, how it worked, took away some of their concern and answered some of the questions on the front end, which made them feel more empowered with how to use the app once they were granted that access. Now we're in Recognize, right? We joined a few years ago and we are continually successful with it, I would say, because we've made recognition really easy. So the first thing that we've done is we've integrated with other applications. Our internal communications platform is called Workplace currently, and we do have an integration in Workplace, which means that managers who distribute badges and team members who receive badges don't necessarily have to have another app on their phone. They can access their account through Workplace. Of course, they're welcome to access it on the internet as well if they're a computer user, but in the hospitality industry, not everyone uses a computer. And we found that that integration is really key in help cutting some of the fat and reducing the clutter and making everyone crystal clear on where they can find information about Recognize and all their rewards. We're also showing that you can give positive feedback in a really immediate way. I think as leaders, we all know that the most effective form of feedback is feedback that happens right then and there in the moment. And Recognize is super quick, right, and easy. So if you see someone going above and beyond or taking on an extra task, you're able to acknowledge it immediately, which makes it easy, right? It's easy to give that feedback. You don't have to keep a log and remember to give the feedback at your next one-on-one. You can go ahead and deliver it right then and there. It's also easy to reward dispersed teams. So at BlackBerry, we have a lot of dispersed teams. We are literally in the mountains. So we're miles away from each other at any given time. We have people that work overnight. We have people that work only seasonally. And with Recognize, we're able to acknowledge the performance of all of those team members, regardless of how far away we are from them or how often we see their shining face in the office, right? And that's something that our managers who are the most engaged mention as something that they love about Recognize. Okay, and then my last slide here is just some tips and tricks, some things that have worked for us that may work for you guys. So one of the ways that we increase manager engagement is by including Recognize as a talking point in our leader development series. So we have leader development at BlackBerry. We have a program called Leadership BlackBerry, where we take young enroll leaders or emerging leaders and we train them, right? We give them some of the soft skills that they need to be an effective leader. One of our classes is on communication, and that includes providing negative feedback. So like doing write-ups or doing performance reviews, but also positive feedback. And we highlight that positive feedback is just as, if not more important than the negative feedback. And we do assign homework in that class. So we have them send out their first 5 badges right then and there in between that class and the next class. That kind of takes the edge off, right? Because it gives them some practice of providing that feedback in a safe space. And I find that that's been really, really helpful. We also do set a budget. So we have different badge allotments depending on your tier in Recognize. So someone like myself in HR, I can send as many badges as I want. Someone out in the field in operations that only has a team of 3 can send fewer badges. Regardless, we do have a limit set for each of them, and most of our managers want to give all the badges that they can because they have that limit set for them, right? And I think that you could kind of see why this would work, because I've heard about companies that offer the unlimited PTO. Those team members end up using less PTO because they just don't have the parameters. It's kind of the same situation here, I would say. If you give them the parameters, they know they're never going to send too many badges, right? Because they can use the exact amount that's budgeted for them. We also do periodically drive traffic to the Recognize site. So not only do we offer rewards and recognition through the app, we also do all of our Team Member of the Month awards through Recognize, which means at least once a month, our managers should be logging into the system and nominating team members for the month. While they're in there, they may as well send a few badges, right? So driving that traffic periodically just helps get it in the system to where they're logging in every so often. We also have established standard recurring badges, not just like the above and beyond badges or you're doing a great job. We have some that are very specific and are based on physical parameters. So one of those is picking up a shift. So every time an hourly team member picks up a shift because someone else has called out or needs their shift picked up, they automatically will be given that 5-point badge that they can use. Similarly, if someone is mentioned by name on our guest satisfaction survey, they're automatically given another 5-point badge. Things like that will get it ingrained into the manager of like, I'm sending badges regularly anyway. And so now it's easy for me to remember to do it even when I'm not looking at the guest satisfaction survey or looking at the upcoming week's schedule. And then lastly, we do model engagement from the top down, which I think might be something unique to us because we are a smaller organization. But for example, our general managers at our hotels frequently will recognize us on the HR team, and they'll do so publicly, like when we host a team member party or team member picnic. They may recognize like the entire leadership team of one of our restaurants on site for doing a great job or hosting a great private event for our guests. Things like that, seeing it demonstrated for you from the GM just makes you as a manager want to follow their lead and engage more with the platform in that way as well. That's all I have for you. So let me know if you guys have any questions about how BlackBerry uses Recognize.
That was amazing, Emma. I love that. I love that.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Emma. That was all super valuable. You probably saw me over here nodding my head in agreement with everything that you said. We've got about 5 minutes left. in our scheduled time. So I would love to take this opportunity to allow questions. If you guys have any questions, you can specify again if this is a question specific to Emma and Catherine from Blackberry Farm, or to recognize. Let's
It looks
see.
like Hannah raised her hand. Would you like us to unmute you, Hannah, so you can ask your question?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, Hannah.
Hi. I loved that you implemented some standard badges. You know, you mentioned like if somebody picks up a shift, then they get this automatic badge. So I had two questions. Do you have like a standard badge that is just kind of thank you for going above and beyond, or do you have ones that are specifically titled like thanks for picking up a shift? And then my second question to that is when you say they're automatic, is that something that like HR is monitoring and then able to send out, or how do you send those out?
Yeah, great question. So it's a little bit of both in regards to both questions. So we do have badges for some of the softer things like going above and beyond. We have one called Brand Champion, which is like where you do something that's like very BlackBerry-esque. We can recognize you for doing that. We have Skill Master, which is where you've learned a new skill or taken a training or something like that. And then we also have those standardized ones, which are picking up a shift. We have one called volunteering, which is where you work at a concert or a private event on our property. And then we do have that one for the best report as well. So we have both. For the ones on the survey, those ones are distributed by, it's not an HR team member, but it is a member of management. A specific person will distribute those badges each and every day. They'll still show up in the stream so everyone can see them. For the ones that are like picking up a shift or volunteering, it can be sent by the person's direct supervisor. So it's kind of like an all hands on deck situation. Some are sent by the managers themselves, some can be sent by HR. It depends on the situation.
What is the cadence? Do you do this like weekly, monthly? Do you do this daily?
Daily.
Daily.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the survey, because us in the support center, we're only in office Monday through Friday. So we send them every day, Monday through Friday. The managers, like I said, it's so ingrained in our culture right now. Every time something happens that's above and beyond, they just go ahead and send one. So it can be daily, it can be multiple times a day. It just depends on what the situation is. And then we have some big ones too, some higher value badges that we send out monthly. So our team members of the month get them, people that have the best quality focus on property get them once a month. And we also do a leader of the quarter one that's quarterly, and those are all sent by HR.
I don't know if you mentioned this. What is the population of your organization?
About 1,200 team members.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Hannah. Great questions. Anybody else have any questions? Sam, am I missing any in the chat?
I do not see any in the chat, but we still have a couple minutes here. So definitely we'd love to help you guys out and answer any questions if you do have any.
And again, we will send these links in the follow-up email as well. But just a reminder, Sam has some links in the chat here on some manager training resources that we offer, as well as so a little bit of a deeper dive into the manager portal. And again, I mentioned those training webinars being for managers, but we actually encourage company admins to attend them first, so that you guys know exactly what tools, especially since sometimes our administrators who are running the recognition program may not have direct reports. So they may not actually see what the manager portal looks like from their instance. So, anybody can join those to get a little bit of a deeper dive into the manager portal. And then she also shared an article on how to best leverage the manager portal. So definitely check all those out. If you didn't grab them in the chat, we will send them in the follow-up along with a recording. So we'll get you guys all a recording of this session as well. And then just to wrap things up, it looks like we're just about at time and I don't see any other questions. So again, I've mentioned a couple times, if you have any additional questions or want to request any additional resources, Please feel free to reach out to us at any time at support@recognizeapp.com. And we thank you guys so much for joining our webinar today. Thank you again, Emma and Catherine, for being here. That was really valuable insight. And we hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your week and weekend coming up.
Thank
Thanks,
you, everyone.
Bye.